In Chapter 17, we are interested in counting frequencies, and we do that using Freq. In the Freq step that you see here, we are looking at data that was created when we combined data sets. And when we combine data sets, it's a good idea to run Freq to see if everything was represented in the same way in the individual data sets. And we will see in this case, there is an issue with the gender variable in that female is expressed in two different ways, same with male. For some of the observation, the word is spelled out, but for other observations, we have an abbreviation. So before we can create anything meaningful, we need to clean that, and that's what I show here in this data step, where I've used conditional logic to change the spelled out female to the abbreviation, and similar with male. I'll go ahead and run that. And I see here that everything looks good. If I was dealing with a very large data set where I couldn't just take a glance at it, I would want to run another Freq. And now I see I only have F's, and I no longer have observations where female is spelled out. And this is good because now I want to take a look at a cross table. And the information in a cross table can be confusing to read. To create a cross table, we list the two variables we're interested in and an asterisk in between them. So let's run this and create it. And the key to understanding the information is in using this legend properly. So we have 4 numbers in each of these cells of our table, and they correspond to an overall frequency or count, an overall percent, a row percent, and a column percent. All right, so overall, we have 2 6-year-old females in this data set, 3 6-year-old males, 2 7-year-old females, 4 7-year-old males, 1 8-year-old female, and we don't have any 8-year-old males. Over here in the far right and at the bottom, we have some totals. We know that we have a total of 5 6-year-olds, 6 7-year-olds, and 1 8-year-old. Now let's take a look at the overall percent. There are 12 total students in the class. I have 2 6-year-old females. That's 16.67%. 2 out of 12 is 16.67. Now the row percent. Now going across the row, the percents should add up to 100. The 2 6-year-old females represent 40% of all of the 6-year-olds. 2 divided by 5 is 40%. 3 out of 5 is 60%. So 60% of the 6-year-olds are male. And now let's talk about the column percent. And we'll take a look at the male column because that's the example that was used in your PowerPoint slide. If I add up the 42.86, the 57.14, and the 0, I'll get 100 across my, or down my column. So I've got 3 6-year-old males, 4 7-year-old males, no 8-year-old males, for a total of 7 males in the data set. 3 out of 7 is 42.86%. 4 out of 7 is 57.14%. Now let me ask a question and explain how to extract the answer from the table. The question is, what percent of males is 7 years old? The beginning of the question is what percent of males? So we'll look only in the male column. And column is key here because we are going to be looking at the column percent to get the answer. The rest of the question is 7 years old. So let's go up to this cell. We want the column percent for the 7-year-olds. The answer is 57.14. 57.14% of males is 7 years old. And that concludes my video on Freq.